Welcome to the Kimbolton Kart Circuit in Cambridgeshire, where 12 months ago we witnessed what has since been described as the greatest kart race ever. 12 months on, and will the Junior TKM Elite Final live up to that billing? You're about to see. This is the 17th running of the annual Maxis TKM Festival. I'm joined by the TKM coordinator, Graham Butterworth. And Graham, I want to talk to you a little bit about the recent revelations about the TKM engines. There's been some issues with, well, let's call it what it is, people cheating. And I know you've been dealing with a few things this weekend, but just for those watching, where are we in terms of that?
Well, the rules are pretty simple. We say you do not modify the components of the engine. It's as simple as that. There's one area people can modify. The rest of it, you have to leave exactly as it is. And we came up, first of all, we discovered that people have been modifying pistons. It's very fractional, but it is slightly shortening the piston effectively. That has an effect on the timing of the port timing of the engine, the idea being to give a fraction more power. So we found what someone might say is a fairly sophisticated way of modifying it. Actually, it was not very well carried out, and we quite easily spotted it. We've also then now discovered some similar modifications, or a different modification but a similar theme to the cylinder barrels, where the liner has had some modifications carried out, and indeed this weekend we've picked up a number of engines with that in. We feel very sorry for the innocent owners of those engines who've come to us and said, look, we've heard there might be some problems, can you please check our engine? We've checked them, the scrutineers have checked them and said, sorry, it's been modified. It's very hard luck on them. I've had people say, you know, I've not slept all night because I don't know what to do about this now. And it's clearly one or two maybe people who are doing this, who are modifying things. And you know, they're doing something completely illegal, and I hope the drivers will go back to them and you know, demand retribution for what's happened to their engines.
And we're talking about, I think we're talking about recognised engine builders that charge people a lot of money for working on their engines. Is that right?
Well, we have no categoric 100% proof of person A or person B. There are certain names floating around the paddock, and there will always be people who are under suspicion. But no doubt about it, if we can categorically prove someone, we will name them. There's no hesitation. But yes, these are professional people who are preparing engines for people. That person suddenly says, can you please check our engine, because I'm a bit worried having heard about this, and we discover it's been modified. So he is left in a situation where he's paid money to have an engine prepared, now finds it's unusable basically, and it will cost several £100s to get it put back into a legal situation. It's very sad. I mean, let me stress, this is a very, very small number of engines out of many, many hundreds and thousands that are around. But we just want to nip it in the bud before it goes any further. It's something that's happened quite recently, and we just want to stop it as quickly as that.
Okay, and another thing I want to talk to you about is you've been around karting a long time, and I know in the past you've had a lot of strong views about karting and how it should be developed. We're in a bit of a dilemma. I think we're at a crossroads at the moment, I think it's fair to say. In terms of the numbers, we've got declining numbers in karting generally. People talk about British Championships have got, you know, so many fewer drivers in, but it's nothing to do with that. We've got clubs, I know Three Sisters, Manchester and Buxton back in 2004, when we did the Motors TV series there, and it was based at Three Sisters as an MSA event. The average attendance was 243 drivers. Last November, I think they had something like 68 member drivers racing there. We're in a difficult position. Now, what do you say in terms of what needs to be done? I've got my own views, but what do you think of some of the things we should be working on?
It's very complicated. I've done quite a lot of research lately on numbers at different circuits and so on and so forth. And while it's true that in some places numbers have disappeared completely. For example, here at Kimbolton, they have fantastic numbers at the club meetings. We have a situation where our numbers are increasing at some circuits, but it's very different from one circuit to another, so there are some big variations there. I think there is a big variation in what people would describe as karting and numbers and what they're doing, because overall the numbers in karting are probably still incredibly high, but they work differently. Now, we supply the engines for Club 100, who are a professional organisation where people go along, jump in a kart, race it, and that's it. They have a great time. They have got over 1,000 members. They are busy day in, day out. So they are incredibly successful because people like the concept there of they don't have to get their hands dirty, they turn up, they have a really good time, they go away. In kart racing in general, the people tend to think of MSA racing, the motorsport approved racing, as the place. In fact, their numbers are probably dropping overall. I'm sure they are, I know they are. But in non-MSA racing, which is effectively the same racing but carried out without some of their overheads, if you like, numbers are increasing. And so you see circuits that have more people taking part in non-MSA racing than MSA racing. So it's very complicated. Added to that, the world governing body, the CIK, have of course completely disintegrated karting by coming out with a class of engines which everyone just hates and everyone stopped racing.
Yeah, so nobody wants them.
No one wants them. So they have destroyed the karting from the heart. They've destroyed it. And we are now being asked by other countries to supply engines for them to race because they've got no other engines to use. So the world is changing significantly.
Yeah, and a couple of things. I interviewed the Morris family up at Hooton Park recently, and Nigel obviously had done non-MSA, and he's done MSA, and he's complimentary about both. One of the things I think needs to happen, there's been a meeting between the MSA and the ABKC recently, and I'm pleased to see they're reducing the price of the ARCS packs, which is the pack you need to get a licence to go MSA racing. It's been £75. But frankly, in Nigel's case, he had 3 kids racing. He had to spend £225 on 3 ARCS packs, which contains the same DVDs, the same books, which is a nonsense in my opinion. I frankly think at the moment we should be giving the ARCS packs away for free. The licence for the first year should be free. Absolutely convinced that that's got to be the way moving forward. What do you think on that?
I think the MSA are in a difficult position because traditionally their role has been as a governing body, full stop. They're not a promotional organisation, they're a governing body. And so there have been some crazy things. We were asked to produce a report some years back on costs. And one of the things we highlighted, just to do with the ARCS packs, is you have to pay for a book twice. And actually that book is pretty useless anyway. Yeah. So, there are some ridiculous things, and it's good to see that something is happening there. But I think the MSA over the last few years have started to realise they need to be more of a promotional operation as well. They need to encourage people in. And so they're in maybe a halfway stage at the moment. But I think an awful lot more can be done to bring people in, to encourage people and so forth. And I tend to think that at the moment what a lot of people see with MSA racing is, it's just more hassle. You do on non-MSA racing and it's less hassle.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I was at Hooton Park last week and I was looking at their numbers for their IndyCar Racing League and the MSA event. They're doing 3 times the numbers in their non-MSA event as they are the MSA event. And when I ask people, why is that? You said it earlier, you're talking about people enjoying their racing. It's simpler, it's easier to get into, and people do make that transition, so it is a good way to start, and they do go into MSA racing. But I think we need to learn, as from an MSA point of view, what it is that people want and why they're doing MSA or non-MSA racing in such bigger numbers these days.
Going back, it's a long time ago, and going back 20 years ago now, I set up an endurance championship. In fact, it still runs today, what remains from it. And we set that up as a non-MSA event, a series of 6 and 24-hour races across the world or whatever. And what do? Well, we sit down, we write a set of rules, we pluck out the key things effectively from the MSA rules. But we keep it simple. We have a clerk of the course. He is the boss. and what he says goes. There's no argument. There's no appeals and things like that. And people respected that. And when we had a problem with a race, I was race director. When we had a problem once at an event, we actually we got all the drivers around the table and said, right, this is a situation you can do A or B because of this scenario with the weather, and everyone voted to do A. That's it, we know where we are. It was very simple, it worked incredibly well, it does work very well, and I mean, there are lots and lots of kart events. It's meant to be simple, it's meant to be fun, etc., etc. I really think we could do with making it a lot simpler. It will reduce costs. People would have just as much fun, probably more fun. It would be less hassle, and I think that can very easily be done. And okay, if you've got a very top championship, national championship or something, it's slightly different. But your average club meetings around the place, you just get on and run them as events, and you treat the drivers as customers and not people who you want to throw out as soon as they come in the door. They are customers. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're singing off the same hymn sheet, undoubtedly. Now, just looking at today, weather at the moment, absolutely atrocious. It was great yesterday, got all the heats done. Weather is miserable at the moment. Now, hopefully later in the day we may get a little bit of a break in the weather. I'm not sure as things stand at the moment, but in terms of the track, you've had to make some changes. What's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, on Friday when we were testing, suddenly there was a downpour. I've never seen anything like it here in umpteen years, and the place was flooded, flash floods all over the place. Yesterday we got through great weather, and we took a decision because we knew this Hurricane Bertha was on its way. We took a decision to run all of the heats yesterday. We ran right up to the limit of 6 o'clock last night. So we've only got the pre-final and the finals to do today. So that makes it easier in terms of time. We've got some flooding issues around the circuit, as everyone has at this moment. So we've put some cones to mark out just to keep people wide of a certain area and so forth. So we are hoping that we can go racing. I think now we're just about to get the karts out to do some practice in the wet before they go into the pre-final. So it's going to really throw an interesting spanner into the racing as well, because all the racing yesterday was in the dry, bone dry, lovely conditions. Now we're going into extremely wet conditions, so it could completely throw the order of where people are in terms of position.
And give us a name, just looking at the let's go junior, senior, just one name. I know you like to give about 3 or 4 names usually, sitting on the fence. Just one name in junior, one name in senior, who you think's going to take it this weekend?
I'd have to say Alex Forward in junior is looking like he's very much in control, but I'll throw in a second name, which is Chris Whitten, new to the class, but incredibly quick. In seniors, Joe Forsdyke, he's won the festival twice before. He's been off doing nothing else. He's come back. He won all 3 of his heats yesterday. He's in a very good position, but completely different weather conditions, so let's see what happens today.
Yeah, I'm going with Alex Forward as well. There's no Carl Hornby here, it's a bit of a surprise this weekend, so I'm going with Alex as well. I'm going with Josh Waring, I think, in seniors. We'll see how they get on, but after the break we're going to be back with the start of the racing. It's the clubman's up first.